In this video, I'm going to review solving quadratic equations by factoring. The very first step is always going to be to set the equation equal to 0. In this case, it's not equal to 0, so I'm going to need to move the negative 2 to the other side by adding 2 to both sides. So we get 3x squared plus 7x plus 2 equals 0. The very next step is going to be to factor out the GCF from all three terms. If I look at my coefficients, 3, 7, and 2, the GCF is just 1. So in this case, I can skip that step. That's not going to help us any. The next thing that we're going to do is go straight to the diamond. And if you remember, in the top we put A times C, and in the bottom we put B. For this equation, A is 3 and C is 2, so A times C is 6 and B is 7. What I'm looking for in the diagonal spots here and here are two numbers that multiply together to give me A times C, so they need to multiply to give me 6, and they add together to give me 7. So our numbers should be 6 and 1. From here I can go straight over to the box. Some of you might be tempted, if you think there's a shortcut here, to use these two numbers to create your factors or your solutions. That will not work when the A value up here is not 1. In this case, we definitely cannot just skip all of the box and go straight to our solutions. So we're going to fill in. We're going to have 3x squared and 2, so it's always the first term and the third term. And then I'm going to put 6 and 1 along the diagonal, and I always look to what the variable is to see what it is that I'm splitting up into two parts. So I'm splitting up 7x into 6x and 1x. The next thing I'm going to do is factor out the GCF of the top row. So when I look at 3x squared and 6x, they're both divisible by 3, and they both have an x in common. That's going to allow me to figure out that the top needs to be x, and then plus 2, because 2 times 3x is 6x. On the bottom, the GCF, the only thing they have in common is 1, so I'm going to put plus 1. And then I'm just going to verify x times 1 is 1x, 2 times 1 is 2. It looks like the whole box works out. The next thing I'm going to think about is writing these two as factors. So I'm going to write my quadratic equation in factored form. And then from this, now I'm able to start finding the solution. So I'm going to split the two factors and set each individual factor equal to 0. And the reason that I do this is because if either of these two sets of parentheses equals 0, the whole equation is going to equal 0. And then I'm just going to solve these two little baby equations. So my first solution is going to be x equals negative 1/3. And then I'm going to just subtract 2 from both sides. And I'm going to find out that my second solution is negative 2. If I wanted to check to verify that this is correct, I could substitute these two solutions back into the original equation right here and check to verify that I get the same thing on both sides. Just to reiterate, if you take a look at your solutions, negative 1/3 and negative 2, it is definitely not these two numbers up here that we got in our diamond. So make sure you remember to use the box.